Hi, and welcome to Have a Chat. I am your host today, Veronique Arsenault, and I am joined by my most wonderful co-host, Judy Loge.
And hello, Veronique, and welcome to our viewers. Glad to be with everybody again.
Yes, absolutely. And Audrey isn't able to be here with us today. She had some other things that she needed to get done during the same time frame. So, of course, we always miss her when she's not here with us
Yes.
together virtually, of course. But we've got a great show lined up, and I'm going to get you to kick it off, Judy, as we always do with your quote.
I will. And you know what I was thinking, Veronique? We've been doing this show for going on 8 years now, so there are bound to be repetitive quotes, right? And so forgive me if it is one, but I think it's a good one to go with anyway. The ones who notice the storms in your eyes, the silence in your voice, and the heaviness in your heart are the ones you need to let in. Now, that may have been done recently, but something was telling me to bring this up again today because those few words impact me.
Well, I think it's beautiful, and I don't remember that we did do it, Judy. So I think it's a wonderful quote, and it's funny, I mean, and you and I know this so well, being as public as we are. Sometimes people don't really see you, right? They see the you that they think that they know, the you that you portray, that live your life out loud, and I'm the same way. I definitely live my life out loud. I'm as public as I can be around here.
Yes.
But it's rare to find someone who actually sees you for you, and not to say that you or I are putting on fronts or being fake, but there's definitely a you that goes out, and then there's a you in those moments when life is a little bit more difficult, right?
Totally. And you're very private, and you wear your emotions, I find, really inside. So I'm more of the heart in the sleeve type of gal. You carry a lot and hold a lot, and you take other people's burdens. And so one day when you were going through a really bad experience, when things were becoming very, very hard on you, you were going through an issue with the restaurant, there'd been a flood, there'd been a fire, all of that. I just happened to walk in that day and I saw it all. I saw your eyes that were just so sad. There was not much in your conversation, so I felt that heaviness in your heart, and it spoke volumes, Veronique. I think, and I'm very intuitive, and so are you. We're good people readers. I'm very good at moods and if somebody's off. And I think if you're feeling somebody's off, 9 times out of 10, they are. Definitely going through something that should, make you explore it a little bit further. And I also think that if you're going to say, hi, how are you? Be ready for the answer, because hi, how are you today is so shallow for the most part. It's hi, how are you? And it's just a given out of the mouth, not a very thoughtful question. It doesn't require somebody genuinely answering you. It's just a kind of a rehearsed line. So say what you mean what you say. And I will end on one thing on this quote is that with your eyes, when you notice the storms in somebody else's, the only bit of silver lining, well, there might be others, but in this pandemic have been the mask wearing, in that you see the eyes. People say, how can you see somebody's emotions? Well, you certainly can. You can see when someone has fearful eyes, terrified. You can see sadness. You can see joy. I mean, I smile with my eyes. You know how they say it doesn't reach your eyes a lot of the time? It's just a mine. If I'm genuinely excited and happy, you're going to see it with my mask on. So if anything else, we're able to read that. And I think that's a real big thing.
Absolutely. And you're right. Judy, it's funny. People always assume that they know me, and a lot of people do. They know a lot of those things. I'm very public on social media, and we do this show and we talk a lot about things that are going on in our lives, but those things that are more difficult for me, or that there's a big difference for me between pressure and stress. For me, there's lots of pressure, and I thrive under pressure when I'm at work, when I'm on council, when you and I are doing an event or the show. Pressure for me is that encouragement and that desire to do better. When it comes to stress for me is that out of control feeling, and that overwhelming sense of I don't know how I'm going to get through this, right? And the restaurant brought on a lot of that. And I remember, there was so many days when you came in, and you were so supportive during that time for me. And it was such a, I hold those things, especially stress, close to my chest. And there's not a
Yeah.
lot of people who actually know me in those moments. I have some wonderful, incredible friends,
Yeah.
and I have a wonderful supportive family, and you're part of that.
Mm.
But in general, people don't see that because
No.
I find it really tough to verbalize it, right? And I find it
Yeah.
tough to look for that help in support. So it's
Mm-hmm.
interesting
Mm-hmm.
how you're right. The eyes always are that window to the soul.
They are. They are. And our best assets, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. So there was a great show on TV on the weekend, and an incredible gifted human being and singer. And you watched that show. I haven't been able to see it yet. I have recorded it, so I'm looking forward to that. But talk to us a little bit about the Adele special that happened.
Well, first of all, I am a huge fan of Adele. It's not to say that everybody is. Everybody has their own personal taste. Some people, she's too much. She's too, not their type of singer. For me, she's incredibly gifted and powerful. And I think the thing I love about her the most is that it comes from deep, deep, deep down. It comes from her soul, and all of her songs do come from experience. So I think that's why I like her so much. It's not just, a little cute little, little write up. Not to put down Taylor Swift or anything. She started off doing that little thing with the guitar and light lyrics, and it was fun and cute. And again, she's extremely talented. Maybe not everybody's choice of artist, but again, talented. But she talks from her heart and puts it right into her lyrics. And to me, that's a very special person that can actually talk literally through their music and sing from experience. I mean, yes, we all know those artists that have been there and done that and been into drugs and healed, or been abused like Tina Turner, and write about it, and you better be good to me. But Adele, there's something deeper again. And she looks amazing, Veronique. People may have seen her at her largest weight. I said then, and I will say it now, she's incredibly gorgeous no matter what her weight is. Stunning woman. And I think the funny thing about her is that she's so awkward at times. She has this very amazing presence as a performer, but when she laughs, it's a guffaw. It's a belting out really uncouth, really herself. And I think that makes her very unlovable. And I just adored her. And the setting for her concert, which Oprah hosted, so there was her music from the album 30 intermingled with questions from Oprah. The location itself in Hollywood was at the Griffith Observatory, out of this world, overlooking Beverly Hills. That in itself was a breathtaking venue. It kind of made the show complete for me. Have you heard anything about it? Are you a fan of Adele's yourself?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I'd love to see her in concert. I love her music. I think it's so powerful, and just her, her presence is just incredible.
Yes.
I haven't watched the show yet. I have heard great feedback from it. People just absolutely adored it that did watch it. So it's definitely on my must watch. But yeah, I think she's a phenomenally talented singer songwriter, and one of those once in a generation kind of people.
So let's talk about a big issue that she talked about with Oprah, and that was the reason for her weight loss. It wasn't intentional. It was due to the fact that she has undergone extreme anxiety due to a very disruptive, very heavy childhood, bad relationship with her father. You name it, she's kind of been buried under a lot of it for a long time, issues. And so she's kind of resurfaced with her latest album. But in her journey to kind of deal with putting alcohol away to numb her pain, and she ate and she did things maybe just to fill that void of loneliness and self-expression. But it wasn't that had her lose 100 pounds. It was going to do things that would calm her mind. So she'd go for a walk. And it wasn't to lose weight. It was to calm. And then she'd go do a hike in the mountain area, or she'd go visit friends, or she'd sit around without alcohol and have a nice beverage of ice water and just talk. And with that came a new feeling, and on her journey then, it gradually caused her to lose weight. So it wasn't that, oh my gosh, I want to lose weight. I'm so famous. Everyone's looking at me. No. So it doesn't matter if I'm overweight, this weight, underweight. It doesn't define me. And I think that is a huge public statement. And I do believe that it wasn't just for the air, the viewers. I do believe she was very sincere in saying, I am what I am. It's all in here that counts. I love it.
Yeah, and it's, you know, it's such a current topic, of course, is body positivity and body shaming. You know, with
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
incredible amount of social media and connection that we have
Mm-hmm.
in these days.
Mm-hmm.
You know, social media is a wonderful thing. You know, I've connected with many people
Yeah.
across the country that I had as childhood friends. It also
Mm-hmm.
creates an incredibly negative dynamic in a lot of ways, and
Yes.
you know, you've built something quite amazing actually through social media that you're using in a positive way, and that's the J Connection
Mm-hmm.
and
Yes.
your anti-bullying group and crusade, because it's something that you've been, you know, advocating for so many years now. But
Mm-hmm.
your theme of this week was body positivity, so let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, I just think that being an anti-bully activist, that we really have to put focus on things other than the direct assault of one person onto another. And again, hurt people hurt people. So we're going back to, why is the child bullying another kid? Where is that child coming from? They have to be engaged, and you have to dig down and find out, is it from home that they're seeing this behavior onto them, onto the next person that they harm, kind of thing. It's a whole interrelationship of dynamics, and it's complex, very complex. But I think let's talk about it, that you can't just focus on that, like so and so is hitting so and so or calling them this, that, or they're outright shaming people about something that they sometimes have no control over. Yes, we do control what we put in our mouth, but sometimes it's not as easy as that. Okay. I know people that eat with their emotions. I know people that can't touch food when they're upset. So it's trying to, you know, who are we to judge somebody that is of an undesirable weight in our opinion? I'm a thin woman. I've relatively been thin my entire life. So are people going to condemn me because I'm on the low side I'm good for my height. I'm good for my stature. And I'm just the opposite of Adele. Like, people are not shaming me. I shouldn't say that, but I think they sometimes admire me that I'm able to keep my physique as trim as I am at age 60. But it's not because I'm working at it, Veronique. It's because it's my makeup. It's because I'm hyperactive. I do things that keep me busy all the time. So if they're going to say, oh, she doesn't eat, and we've talked about this before, oh, she must really worry about her figure, being a doctor's wife, or he must tell her this. No, never. In fact, I probably overeat a little bit, but metabolisms that play with me. So again, who knows what I do? Who knows how I live? Who knows what you do and how you live, and why you've decided to maybe be your better self, which you had been. You're looking fantastic, by the way.
Thank you. Well, it's interesting that you and I are both at you know, at opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to that. So, you know, being heavier for the last number of years, and you know, I spent my young life, as most do, up until up until I turned 30, as a very fit and healthy individual. And then,
Mm-hmm.
you know, regular life got in the way. I started working full time, and you know, formed habits that I shouldn't have. Um, and so I get judged about that, and you know, because I
Jay.
live a very public life here in Miramichi, I get when you're this public as you and I are, people tend
Mm-hmm.
to feel like they have a right to
Yeah.
say what they want to you and
Mm-hmm.
about you. And I'll give a couple of examples, but I'll start with this though. So as much as I know that, you know, at the ripe old age of 49, that I do need to take better care of myself for a couple of reasons. This year, actually, I went to a specialist because I was worried about, you know, my health, and I had, you know, gained weight over the last number of years. And so the specialist that I went to see did just a massive amount of tests on me, like blood work and you know,
Good.
liver functions and all of those things, right? And he said to me, as I'm having my consult, he said, "You are the healthiest individual I have ever had in my office, based on everything that he tested." And so I was like,
Great.
"Oh." He said, "But I'm going to tell you this. You're about to be, you know, you're 48 years old, going to be 49." And he said,
Mm-hmm.
"You're not going to stay that way if you don't do something about, you know, where you're sitting at your weight." So
Oh,
I was like, "Oh,
okay.
okay." You know, and he said, "I'm not telling you
Mm-hmm.
to lose 100 pounds." He said, "I'm telling you to lose
No.
30 and keep it off." I'm like,
Yep.
"Okay."
Yep.
So it prompted me to start thinking about what I needed for myself a little bit differently. And I'll be
Mm-hmm.
honest, I didn't do anything about it for a while. And for about 5 months, I didn't do anything about it. And
Mm-hmm.
then I
Mm-hmm.
got elected to city council. And as I was campaigning, and I've campaigned in the past for other elected offices, people, as I said, feel a real uh, connection to you for wonderful reasons, but in
Mm-hmm.
other reasons, they feel like they have the right to say whatever. And so
Yep.
I would be at someone's door and they would say to me, "You're too fat to get elected," or you're too old, you're too young, your hair is too long,
What?
it's too dark, it's not the right color. You look older in your pictures, you look younger in your pictures. All of those
Oh,
things, right? And so you're kind of like, do I really want to do this? Like, do I
jeepers.
really want to kind of
Gee.
expose myself that way? But anyway, having said all that, it kind of started me on that journey. And so this
Mm-hmm.
summer, after I
Mm-hmm.
got elected, it was a fantastic experience for me. And after I got elected, I was volunteering at an event with our deputy mayor, with Patty Quinn, who's a wonderful friend of the show. And we
Mm-hmm.
got called to do something else at the end of that day. And we had about a 7.5 hour odyssey around the city, and it was all on foot. We didn't get home till almost 11 o'clock that night. And I woke up the next day, just exhausted. And I thought, I don't want to feel like this for 4 years. I want to be able to do all the things I want to do over the next 4 years
Yeah.
as a city councilor.
Yeah.
And so I started walking the next day. And that's what I've been doing.
Yeah.
So I've walked almost every day since that day, July
Yeah.
18th. And I've managed to lose 25 pounds. Now,
I
I
know.
have cut myself some slack. I'm not crazy when I have a bag of chips. I don't, beat myself up anymore. And
Right.
this is working right now for me. I'm going to have to get
Mm-hmm.
better. I'm going to have to do other things. But you know what?
Mm-hmm.
I've also come to grips with the fact that I'm okay. I'm okay with myself.
And I'm more than okay with myself too. And as long as we know, that's all that matters. I hope we can carry this conversation to next week when Audrey's back with us. There's so much more to talk about in the way of mental
Absolutely.
health and body image and all of that. I hope let's continue that next week, Veronique, this conversation.
Absolutely. So we have a jam-packed show. We have a wonderful guest that's going to be spending the entire show with us. So don't go too far, everybody. Go grab a snack. You can make it a healthy one this time or not. I'm going to leave that up to you and what you need most. Some days I just need those unhealthy snacks, and I do try
Yeah.
and keep them around. So anyway, don't go too far, everybody, and we'll see you right after the break. Hi, and welcome back to Have a Chat. I am your host today, Veronique Arsenault, and I am joined by my wonderful co-host, Judy Loge.
Hello, and thanks for tuning back in, viewers. Vero.
I know, so excited, eh? And of course, we're missing Audrey today, but she had other
Yeah.
things that she needed to take care of, and so she wasn't able to be here with us, or virtually. We'll call it virtually anyway,
Right.
together.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we are so excited to introduce our very first guest, actually our only guest today, because there is so much to talk about. And it is my pleasure, our pleasure, to have her as a guest for the first time, Shelley Mountain Collette, and she is a psychotherapist, both with the school district on the youth mental health team with the school district, and in her own practice under Aqua Creative Counseling. So welcome, Shelley.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Hi, Shelley. We
Hi.
finally got to get you on. I've been trying to get this underway for some time because Veronique's focus and one of mine, and of course yours, is mental health, and it's at the top of the list of important things to possess is good mental health. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We're so glad to have you, and of course we know a little bit about your background, but we would love for all of our viewers to get to know you as well. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I live in Miramichi with my husband Terry, and we have a 7-year-old foster daughter and a 25-year-old daughter who lives in Moncton. She's not here; she visits. And yeah, we have 2 cats and a golden doodle named Winston. And yeah, I work for the school system and have a private practice that I've started up where I'm focusing on working with people with trauma.
Okay, that's Excellent. We know you have a vast background. There's so much to talk about. As Veronique said, we have a full show with you. And I just have to throw it right out there that your backdrop is divine. And we'll get into that later. But first of all,
Thank you.
Shelley, regarding your career, talk to us exactly how it all unfolded once you graduated and what led to what in your job line.
Well, actually, when I was in grade 12, I planned on going into kinesiology. I had applied and I fell skiing, and accidentally I ended up in psychology until I could pass the physical for kinesiology, but I fell in love with psychology and ended up finishing that degree. And while I was doing that, I considered being a child psychologist, and then I decided
Mm-hmm.
to uh, go into the schools because I figured I'd have more access to and more time to help the kids and stuff if I was in the schools.
Yeah.
So I got I started my master's, and then I ended up getting a teaching position um, in Eel Ground. So I moved
Mm-hmm.
back home, and actually I got married, and that didn't work out. So I ended up going back to school and finishing that degree and the education degree. Sorry, I finished my education
Mm-hmm.
degree at that point. And
Yeah.
while I was working different jobs, I found out about a different uh, program that was in Virginia that was way ahead of its time. It was VHS tapes doing online, and you had to go and do some work actually in Virginia. So I started that way. Started my
Mm-hmm.
master's with VHS tapes. There was no online then, and
Yeah.
that was as close as we could get back then. So I started that way, and then I ended up moving to Virginia, and I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
I finished my master's degree. I worked in very community services down there, and did one of my favorite things was doing intensive in-home. We don't actually have it here. It was you went in and did family therapy for 5 to 10 hours a week. And I worked at it was called Job Corps, and we don't have that really here either. It's like kids, not kids, but 16 to 24-year-olds go and they live. It's like a residential kind of setting, and they do
Mm-hmm.
training. And there was actually like even like kids who were in gangs and stuff like that. They would send them
Oh.
there to get they would have a choice. You either go to jail or you can go to go to Job Corps. Some of them.
Oh.
So that was interesting coming from Blackville High School to
Yeah.
working with inner city gang kids, but they were
Yes.
awesome. Down south there,
Oh.
yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. It's like I
Yeah.
didn't mean to stab them, ma'am. Like that kind of,
Oh my.
Yes. Those are like in the movies.
Yep, yep. And I loved it. I loved it too. And when you're younger, more naive, you don't, you're not as fearful. I worked at the prison for a while too here locally, and
Mm-hmm.
same when you're younger, and like you don't really have the same fears when you're older. But
Right. It's
yeah,
true.
so then I got yeah, and so I ended up doing an interview while I was still living in Virginia for what I thought was my dream job, doing guidance in my old school, and I actually ended up getting that position and moved home. And I worked up there for a couple of years, and then I found out there was a position that had more of the crisis work and stuff that I had done in Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
So I moved into town and did a new position, guidance position.
Yeah.
And that's where I met Terry and Annika, and ended up staying in New Brunswick when I thought I was going back to Virginia. Um,
Nice.
yeah, so yeah, so I did that, and then there was actually like a lot of crisis stuff that happened when I was doing
Mm-hmm.
that. There was the accident up in Bathurst. There were numerous car accidents with kids and suicides and stuff. So I
Mm-hmm.
actually said, okay, for my mental health, I need a break. So I went in, I thought, I'll take a year or two and teach. And I started teaching kindergarten. And I loved it so much, I stayed for 6 years. And
Aw.
Oh
then,
my.
yeah. And then this child and youth team position came up in 2016, and I just had to apply. So that's what I've been
Wow.
doing since 2016 is this child and youth team. I'm like a guidance counselor representative. There's two guidance counselors on the team, one on each side of the river.
Mhm.
And yeah, so we work as a team with social development, and there's doctors, like mental health, all like mental health social workers, and social workers from child protection, and we all work on a
Mhm.
team approach, like with everybody at the schools, to
Yeah.
help the children. And then just recently started my private practice a few months ago, um, Aqua Creative Counseling, so that I could. That's my next step. I always wanted to do private. Like that's why I took my master's in Virginia, was
Mhm.
because it was private focused. It was our program at UMB is more counseling focused now, but back then it was more just like more school focused. But
Mhm.
yeah, so I went down there and took my program down there because it was private practice focused. And
So, Shelley,
now
tell
I
us
have
Amazing.
this.
how do you stay busy? Shelley is the real question.
Oh, I didn't get into stuff that I've done since. So yeah, yeah.
No, no. Oh, you go ahead,
We'll talk about
Veronica,
that. We'll talk about
being
that.
my sarcastic self. That's amazing,
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
background. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's incredible, Shelley, what what you've been doing thus far, and I know so needed, of course, in our region and really just in general. Mental health, as Judy said,
Mhm.
it's definitely a focus of mine as a priority, and
Yeah.
and so many people that I talk to. But talk to us a little bit, Shelley, about what are some of the issues that you really want to focus on, given I think mental health has probably been brought more to the forefront because of the pandemic, and everything that people are kind of going through with lockdowns and things like that. But what are some of the key issues that you want to focus on, in the coming days, months, and years?
Um, Primarily, personally, I want to work at things that aren't going to burn me out.
Mhm.
I want to be able to help people and help myself at the same time, if that
Yes.
makes
Yes.
sense. And so I'm very careful to focus on things I'm interested in too, to incorporate it into my work. Um, I want to focus on things that are going to help children and families, and more so as I get older, younger is older, if that makes sense. So now people
Yeah.
in their 20s and 30s, I'm like, oh, I want to help young people. And whereas
Mhm.
before, when I was younger, young people were teenagers and children.
Yes.
And now I see such a need in like the 20s group too.
Mhm.
And maybe because I have someone in their 20s, that I see that even more so now as something I'm more interested in. Um,
Mhm.
but I want I want to help children. I want to help youth. I want to help young adults, anybody who's experienced trauma. And now that I have more training in that specifically, and I see the success that people are getting with things like EMDR and like expressive arts and things like, and I can incorporate those into my work, and it's going to be healthy for me and for
Mhm.
them. That's
Yeah.
what my focus is right now.
Shelley, what are some of the ways with so many issues at play here in this day and age with technology, mental health issues, all of that? How do you find people are coping? What are some strategies they're using, whether they be healthy ones or unhealthy ones?
Well, that's that's such an important question, because we put shame on people for doing certain coping strategies that are healthy, and then we lift up
Mhm.
people who have healthier ones, but we're trying to do the same thing, whether we're having a glass of wine or we're doing yoga, we're trying to feel better, right? And that's what
Yeah.
people are doing. So sometimes people are getting caught up into like addictive kind of behaviors and things, but they're really
Mm-hmm.
just trying to cope. So they may be drinking, they may be um, the age is getting older for people getting addicted to things online, whether it be
Mm-hmm.
Facebook, porn, whatever it is, different things online. And of course, there's the alcohol, drugs, those kind of things. But I also see a lot of people reaching out to things like more mindful, looking for mindful awareness
Mm-hmm.
and yoga and
Okay.
meditation and different things like that are healthier. And people seem to be, I guess, becoming more aware of that since the pandemic and things too. Like a lot of people are, and then a lot of people are, more people are getting stuck too, unfortunately, in things that aren't
Do,
healthy.
do you see though a lot of people that go to the gym, for example, that can be excessive as well, right? There's addictions in so many forms,
Exactly.
gambling, all of it. So yeah, I see people that work out just as they should, a good balance in their everyday life. They work it into their
That's
regime, but other people
another
go
key word,
straight out.
balance.
Okay,
Yeah,
balance, and they go straight out, and then they're over exceeding what they're playing themselves out physically then, and they're right back to trying to cope with what they have at hand. They've exhausted everything.
exactly.
So yeah, it's really
Yeah,
interesting. Do you have any type of a
I do.
calming
And
method or something you could use for us?
I do. This is one of my favorites. And we use it a lot in EMDR, and
Mm-hmm.
different therapies use a similar activity. So it's
Okay.
called, this is called a calm place or a happy place or a safe place.
Mm,
And if you practice this when you're not in crisis, then you can go there when you're in crisis, or
okay.
you really need some way to calm yourself quickly. So
Great.
I'm going to invite you to close your eyes if you're comfortable.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So what I would like for you to do is sense yourself going into a place that is a special place for you, a calming place, a happy place, whatever you would like to call it. Choose a place where bringing it up and engaging it will likely elicit a pleasant, happy, or safe experience. Try to keep other people out of this visualization. Make it all about you and your place. I'm going to invite you to take a deep breath. Breathe out. And now I want you to invite all of your senses to participate. Let all your senses experience this place. I'm going to ask you some rhetorical questions. You don't have to answer. What are you seeing? How would you describe this place? Is it colorful? What are the sounds that you might hear? Are there any smells or tastes? Where are your feet? Feel your feet. Where are your hands? Now I'm going to invite you to take a deep breath in. Breathe out through your mouth. And now I'm going to invite you to tell me what you notice. Could someone could someone maybe tell us what you have experienced in your place, your special place?
A real quick unwind, a real quick release from tension that I brought on the set today after a busy day to kind of a few moments of chill.
Yes. And
Yeah,
if
for
we were
me it was a sense of warmth actually. because I was in a warm place.
Yeah.
But it was
Me too.
it was a sense of warmth, you know, and it made my mind focus on what that feeling was, which I'll be honest, my mind races quite a bit in my day. So to be able to kind of do that for a second was nice.
It's
So
hard to focus though, Shelley. It's hard to be yourself when you have everyone in the province watching you with your eyes closed, breathing too. It's
So
hard to be
that's
okay, so
true.
we're actually gonna pause there for now, and we're gonna take a break, which is why we kept you on for the whole show today. So we're
Okay.
gonna take a break. We're gonna give everybody the chance to go and grab a snack, because I know after being calm for a bit, they're gonna want that snack, and a little bit of cold or warm beverage depending on their choice. So don't go too far, everybody. We've got lots more with Shelley. We've got a ton of questions. So come on right back after the break. Hi, and welcome back to Have a Chat. We hope that you had a most wonderful break, as we did, and we are so pleased to be back with Shelley Mountain Collette, and she is a psychotherapist and in private practice, as well as working with the school district here in Anglophone North, I'm going to assume I should say.
Yeah.
So, Shelley, we just had a wonderful brief relaxation exercise in the last segment, so thank you so much for that. Judy and I were both able to have a moment of calm, although as Judy mentioned, having everyone on YouTube watching us breathe in and out, probably a little disconcerting, but it was fantastic. So thank you. You talked a little bit about finding that balance earlier in the previous segment. And I have to say, that's probably something that Judy and I struggle with in our day-to-day lives. So how do you, as busy as you are, and I know that you are, given all that you've got going on, and you've got a family and a wonderful career, how do you find that balance? And anything that you can recommend to us to be able to do the same?
Well, full disclosure, I don't always find balance because I'm kind of a type A and love uh love to be busy. But I think the biggest thing I do myself personally is to incorporate um what I do at school or at work. I incorporate it into my own life or vice versa. For instance, when I was younger, I was into drawing and sketching and that kind of thing. And then when I was doing counseling, I would incorporate a little bit of art therapy here and there. But then when I went back into this position, I started seriously studying art therapy. And so I always practice everything. I actually was on a meeting with some expressive arts therapy practitioners the other night, and that's what I had said, that my biggest thing is to incorporate into my work things that I enjoy and to try them out before I give them to, like, before I try them with my clients. Um, and it's very healing and healthy for me to be around art and colorful things,
Yeah.
and the EMDR piece that I'm focusing on now also is very good for me. Like, I've had my own traumas in my life, as most people have, and it has helped me a lot um, personally too. And so I believe in it. So it doesn't feel like the heavy work of like, oh, this might work, this might not work. When you really believe in what you're doing and you're enjoying it every day,
Yeah.
I think that's key. And to, like you were saying earlier, if you are doing something you enjoy, make sure it's balanced. Make sure you look at every area of your life, um, and you're checking off some boxes in each area that you
Yeah.
enjoy, and not just spending all your time in one area. I'm talking a lot about work here, but um, I enjoy spending time with our foster daughter more than any work. Actually, I did work with her first. Actually, she's the ul-
Nice.
she I joke and say she's the ultimate, like, bringing my work home. I've
Yeah. Yeah.
brought my work home in a whole other way with her.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
her brother actually comes and spends the weekends with us too. Like, so it's kind of part-time fostering with him.
Oh.
So yeah, like, and so family time Sunday, I hardly do anything. Even if somebody wants to have a little
Mm-hmm.
meeting, I'm like, I don't really do Sundays. Sunday
Yeah.
days are
Mm-hmm.
kind of, you know, yeah, they're like my spiritual beliefs are really important to me,
Yeah.
and I grew up going to church with my family, and I have respect for
Nice.
the spiritual side of my life, and
Mm.
um, yeah, that's one piece that's missing, seems to be missing for a lot of people that we grew up with a lot more so, like in the
Yeah.
80s and stuff. Like we went to church, and like it was just what people did. And now I
Yeah.
find when, like, people don't have that in their lives as much either. Not as, it
No.
doesn't seem like we had, the families were together, we had it was like, it seemed rare when families split up and stuff.
Yeah.
And now it's rare that I would have a client that would have both parents together, actually, sadly.
Right.
So,
Right.
Mhm.
like, yeah, it just, yeah, balance is so important. And it's so easy when we enjoy something, like you were saying, going to the gym, and it can, like, even the chemicals in our body and stuff, we can get addicted
Mm-hmm.
to it, right? So,
Yeah.
so it's so, but then the rest of your life is off balance, and then it starts
Yeah.
getting louder. Like,
Right.
Mhm.
Yes.
it's going to get louder if we ignore that part of our life. It's going to get louder, and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's usually kind of painful when that happens.
Can you just talk to us? You're the expert here today. Talk to us about regulation versus dysregulation.
My favorite subject.
How is it? I love it. Mine too.
Well, it again, I'm big on not shaming people. It doesn't help.
Yeah.
And I just find, like, this, our society today, like, we're shaming one side or the other,
Mm-hmm.
instead of listening to each other. And it's coming from a place of dysregulation. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like the last couple of years that dysregulation has escalated.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, and people don't slow down enough to have that awareness in their body. Just that one little calming activity, you can realize that, I'm not really paying attention to what's going on, where my feet are, if I feel
Mm-hmm.
grounded. Like, we're going into this pretend place where we feel grounded, and it's healthy to feel grounded always, not just when we have a guided visualization. But we're living
Mm-hmm.
in a state most of the time, unfortunately, where we're just busy, busy, busy. And for some people, it comes across as anxiety. For some people, it comes across as anger. Uh,
Yep.
some like, and if you have trauma in your system, in your body, it can get really loud. Like, really, the
Mm.
anger, the anger gets loud, the anxiety gets loud, the depression gets loud. It's for a lot of people. If you're not used to, oh, I'm feeling dysregulated, I need to do something. If you don't have an activity in your life that is calming, like a regular visit to the gym or walking the dog,
Yep.
those kind of
Mm-hmm.
things, then it can get out of control, and it can be
Yeah.
very unhealthy, especially, like, well, with, like, everybody being at home. If people are
Mm-hmm.
dysregulated, one person, their anger might be louder than usual, the other person's depression might get louder than usual. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's so key to be able to recognize dysregulation in your body, not just
Yep.
your thoughts. It's in your body, especially with, if we have, like, I use the analogy coming from a logging community and family, um, that it's like all of those stressful moments are almost like logs going down the river. And you know how they would get stuck, right? The logs all pile up,
Mm-hmm.
and then nothing's functioning, nothing's moving the way it should. And then
Yeah.
we need some way of going out, like the loggers did, and poking at the logs to move it, get everything moving again.
Mm-hmm.
And for some people, it might be just yoga. For some people,
Yeah.
it might be singing, dancing, whatever. But some people, they need counseling, and they need therapy, and they need someone to help them with that, because it's just too much. It can become overwhelming.
So, Shelley, all of those things that you've picked up over the years, those skills that you've learned, the training that you've taken, I mean, you're an incredibly educated and experienced counselor. And
Yes.
do you apply that to your, to your own kids? Like, and do they find that tough, right? Because, my mom
Oh
was a
my
teacher
gosh.
when I was growing up. And
Yes.
so I was like, Mom, you don't know anything. You don't know how my teacher's doing it. But do they find it
Oh
tough? And,
my
and do
gosh.
you apply that to your regular life?
Well, I'll tell you this story from just Saturday night. Just Saturday night. I'll be careful not to say names because foster children, you can't use their names. But
No.
our little guy he was here and he actually was praying and this was awesome. He said actually he was the one I fell in love with first, like 4 years ago when I started this job. He's the reason we took the foster training, and then full circle God brings them here. But anyway, that's a whole other program. But he says, please take the thoughts out of our head. And I was like, what does he mean?
Oh.
And I said, do you mean bad memories? And he said, yeah. And I was like, oh.
Aw.
And then our little one, the little 7-year-old, she says, oh, I know what to do. And she comes over and gets him to come over beside her. And she does this. This is what she does. Like EMDR, we do rapid eye
Yes.
movement. She
Yeah.
always does this piece and it comes to her. I don't have to say anything. She just started doing it from watching me. She says, watch my fingers. And she puts the peace sign up in front of him. And she's like,
No.
is that too fast? And he's like, a little bit. So she
Aw.
slowed down. Oh
So
my gosh.
cute.
I was just bubbling. I
Yeah.
was like, oh my gosh, that's so cute.
I just
Yes.
want to get a few minutes in, jump right into a question that always burns within me to ask somebody like yourself in regard to parenting. And that is, I observe, and Veronica observes also, we all do, that in a lot of households in this day and age, the parents seem to have lack of control. A lot of parents, not all, but a lot of them are
Mhm.
missing that control, the being able to say what the rules are in the house and stick to them, be consistent with their children. It almost is the reverse now that the kids are telling the parents how they're going to roll at home, what to do, what they're going to do. And they could be like 10, 12, 13, but they're calling the shots. Can you kind
Yes.
of go from there?
I've seen that. Um, I don't work a whole lot with that. Well, yeah, I do. I take that back. More so the ones that I'm working with, it would be like the neglectful parent or the
Mm-hmm.
um, maybe a parent that has an addiction issue or whatever. So the kid is left on their own to do things. But there's also maybe I shouldn't say this on TV. You can cut this out if you want. But I have this
No.
phrase I call spoiled rottenitis,
Oh no, I
and
love it.
I've used it for years because like so many of the kids that I've worked with, that it's kind of like, yes, they want their parents to step up and have rules.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's our natural instinct. But if you've never had them, you're not going to get them at 14. Like
No.
it has to start. You have to be able to, as a parent of a 3-year-old,
Yep.
say, okay, this is going to look different at 10, 11, 12.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yes, parents are afraid of dysregulating their kids. They want to keep them happy, and it comes from a good intention. But if you aren't the boss, kind of thing, like they don't want to be. Parents don't want to be seen as the boss, but kids need somebody to be the boss. That's why we don't.
Yes.
That's why we don't let them live on their own when they're 10.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They are
Exactly.
crying out for a boss. They're crying out for um, a kind, considerate, authoritative figure in their life, and
And structure, Shelley, wouldn't you say structure? They
structure.
want that safety net. They want to know that there's
Yes.
someone there that might be saying, no, you do have a curfew. I'm going to enforce that because,
Yeah.
in other words, like, oh, if you say stay out till 2 or 3 a.m., that's kind of like saying, I don't really care what you do.
Right.
But if you say, no, I care enough to worry about you and who you're with, and are the parents going to be home? And do you think there'll be open liquor flowing around there? They're probably going to say no. A lot of kids
Yes.
will say no, and whether,
Yeah.
but it shows that you're on to it, that you're watching and you're aware of what is happening in your household with your child.
And you have
Yeah.
to know they're not going to say thank you when they're 15 and you say you're grounded.
Nope. Nope.
But fast forward 10, 15 years, and you see who you started hanging around with maybe back then,
Right.
and where they are at 30 and your parents said no
Mm-hmm.
when their parents weren't paying attention or were saying yes. That's
Yeah.
often when we do say, oh, I get it now. Or when you have a teenager yourself, oh, I get it now. And
The mean mom becomes the good mom at the end of the day.
yes.
When they're growing up, it's like, you might have been tough on me, but I'm thanking you today for it.
Right. And we're able to, as we're older, to see the intention of our parent, even if we don't agree with everything they said or did, we can see them as, okay, they were human, they did the best that they could.
Yes.
And that's key. But I would tell parents, don't be afraid of the big NO word. Don't be afraid of it. Use it when it's fair and appropriate, and they will respect you in the long run for it. And it might even be next week. It's usually not going to be next week when they're, but when the kids are talking to me about their parents saying no and stuff, I rarely get them, unless they're still escalated and dysregulated, they do get it. They might not show it to their parents, but they do tell us at the schools like that they understand, especially when they have another adult saying, yes, this is probably what your parent was. This is why they said that or did that. And a lot of parents, they may not have been, taught how to properly parent, and maybe we need that in the high schools. I would love to see that. I would love to see
Absolutely.
parenting classes in the high schools.
Shelley, we're just about out of time, which is hard to believe at this point. But we really want to thank you for sharing your experiences, sharing your knowledge, and just for joining us today for our full show. It's been very enlightening, and there's so much that we can do for our youth, and especially around mental health. So thanks for all you do, and for the team that you belong to at the school district as well, and your private practice. So a huge thank you to Shelley and for joining us today. And as always, we want to wish everybody a very happy week. Special thanks from Judy and I for joining us this week, and we'll see y'all next week. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Shelley.
Bye,
everybody.
Bye-bye.